Clemson's not at a crossroads. They've gone full off-roading. Charting a new course at Florida seems inevitable. Again, is it for real this time? And maybe the best weekend in recent college football memory is coming up this Saturday. This is the College Game Day Podcast. We are recording on Monday, September 22nd. Rece Davis, Pete Thamel, and Dan Wetzel here. And while there are so many things to talk about, Indiana's demolition of Illinois, Miami making a statement against Florida, I think when you are a preseason national championship favorite and you stumbled out of the gate, and this is the week that you're going to get right, and Dabo goes to the news conference and sort of goes full Dabo mode. Fire me if you want to. I'm not going to the beach. We may lay an egg and go 6-6, but I don't think so. The fans are on the message boards putting out the bat signal for Tyler from Spartanburg, who did spark the Tigers. When Tyler from Spartanburg called in, the Tigers didn't lose for the rest of the season. They won 10 out of 11. And nothing is working. Fran Brown takes his Syracuse team into Death Valley. They score immediately. Then they catch Clemson with their football pants down around their ankles instead of up over their knees. Get them with an onside kick, and boom, it's 10-0 just like that. And they walk out of there with a victory and leave Clemson reeling, and now 1-3. Now, mathematically, there's a possibility for them still to get in the playoff. I'm not sitting here advocating it. I'm going to go ahead and admit my error, jump off the Clemson bandwagon for now, and wish them well. I wish them well. No, as Pete likes to say, nobody roots against anybody on this podcast. We just want good games, good storylines. The Clemson thing, you know what, Peter, reminds me of this. Pete, neither you nor I are cooks. I don't know, maybe Dan. I'm getting to know Dan. I know you know Dan very well. Maybe Dan's a cook. This reminds me of, I've gone to the farmer's market. I've got this great casserole recipe, right? I buy every wonderful ingredient. I buy the very freshest ingredients, the most succulent things to go into this casserole. I put them all together. I'm delighted with the way it looks when it comes out of the oven, and I put a fork in it, and it's like, it doesn't really taste that good. I don't know why. It should. All the ingredients are right there. I mean, the best ingredients you could have right there. And it doesn't, it tastes bad. I need to go to Chick-fil-A instead. Forget this for dinner. So, is there a better way to describe what's going on at Clemson? It should be good, but it's terrible.
You know how much time Dan has spent at farmers markets, clearly by
the Stars Hollow farmers market.
Dan, do you like the farmers market, Dan?
Farmers market, not a whole lot of farmers market in my life, but I've been. I get some stuff, but yeah. I appreciate your casserole recipe. Actually, send it to me. Maybe I'll make it.
I don't cook either. I was trying to think of an analogy, and with it being the wedding week for my daughter, I didn't want to go with the whole. The romance looks good on paper, but it's not going to work because clearly hers is storybook. It's going to work. It's going to be great. So we'll stick with the casserole, Pete. The casserole tastes bad in Clemson.
It does, Rece. It does not taste good, and I think the most worrisome part for Clemson is I don't see an ingredient that can save the casserole this season, right? They just can't throw some hot sauce on there, find a good salsa, and like
look
dinner
at Pete
is
being a good teammate.
Dinner is ruined. We are going to the trash, and we are going to DoorDash, to use a game day sponsor, for something different, because I don't know how you save this Clemson season. They have had. Again, you talk about ingredients, right? They have the $1 million plus quarterback. They have from 3 years ago, the offensive coordinator that was going to rev them up after Brandon Streeter's offense kind of hit a funk. You can't argue that they've gone forward. They had a spell at the end of last season, but they've regressed. It doesn't seem like the Garrett Riley experiment is going to work past this season. They bring in Tom Allen, and they got absolutely filleted by Syracuse on Saturday. I think they scored touchdowns on their first 3 drives. They just marched up and down the field virtually unimpeded. And it seems to me that there's scheme issues for sure, but it seems to me there's a spirit issue. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to revive. I was talking to a coach on the phone yesterday who had nothing to do with Clemson. And he said, Clemson lost their stinger, like a little Southern thing. And I was like, Yeah, like there's an edge that they had. Victory is inevitable. How many of those like close ACC games did they have over the years where you knew Clemson was going to figure out a way to win at the end? And there was nothing inevitable about Clemson. I mean, they had the break, remember, and they came back and they just lack like a spirit to them. And that's hard to diagnose, right? That is very difficult to push forward, because if you look at this roster, Will Help, the transfer from Purdue, has been good. Peter Woods, the interior lineman's been good. TJ Parker, the defensive end, has not played well. In the secondary, they just got Khalil Barnes back, but that was really where it was. That's where it was glaring to me. It was they are overmatched. Now, credit Syracuse. They led the nation in passing last season. Steve Angeli, who's now out for the year with an Achilles tear, unfortunately, he finished, despite going out in the third quarter, he's the second leading passer in the country. So Syracuse has an identity, and they came in with an aggression. The onside kick was one of the best coaching moves of the season by Fran Brown. Hey, we're going to go here to win. Like, that is a spirit. That is a defined identity. We are going to go storm the castle. Clemson's just playing with their food, Dan.
Well, Rece, I love your analogy, and I'm going to make it this way. What I think is the issue here is, you ever watch Beat Bobby Flay on the Food Network?
Oh, here we go.
They get somebody on there and they go, this is my great grandmother's recipe from 120 years ago. She brought it over on the boat, stitched into her dress or something like that from Southern Italy. And then she takes it up. They take it up against Bobby Flay, and Bobby Flay throws like 3 Calabrian chilies in there. And because food is better, food has changed, right? There's peppers and spices that grandma back in the little village didn't have access to. Bobby Flay whips them every time, right? That's what happens. And that's what I wonder, is the recipe the problem? Is the casserole recipe you need to think? There was a really great post on Twitter the other day by Larry Williams of Tigers Illustrated, and he dug up a quote from 2015 of Dabo Swinney talking about, as all Dabo quotes are, it's very long, so I'm not going to read it. Last week's press conference was like 14-minute. You know, you saw the quotes. That was 14-minute filibuster. Like, there are State of the Union addresses that go like an hour. Okay, he went 14 minutes. But he talks about the bell curve and the lifespan of a business, and how a startup hits gold and everything goes up. And then at one point, he talks about how when you fail to innovate, you're static. You can't plateau. Plateau is losing, and everything falls down off the cliff. And how do you constantly reinvent? How do you constantly innovate? How do you stay hungry? And I don't know the problem that is involved in the Clemson football program, and I'm sure Dabo's trying to figure it out. But that is his job, to figure it out. No one wants him fired. He shouldn't leave, but he needs to figure out what they lost as that edge. Because I think, to Pete's point, the inevitability is gone. I saw a team that got pushed around by Syracuse, that got out hustled by. I had never seen I've seen Clemson lose games. I've seen them lose recently because they didn't have as much talent. Really don't see them get pushed and beaten up and beaten by a hungrier team. And so I don't know the issue that's going on at Clemson, but my guess is that is some of it. They need to go back and find that old hunger. How many of these kids, and this is the thing about that transfer portal, they're getting actually some decent production from some of these guys, but I think we all love how Dabo, hey, I'm going to be loyal to my recruits. I'm going to be loyal to my families that we're going to build up. You know, there's a hunger that comes with the transfer portal guys. Some of the transfer portal gets a terrible rep, and all the coaches complain about it. And these are all quitters and unloyal people. Some of them are guys that have built their way up. Leading tackler for Syracuse on Saturday just came from the University of Buffalo and things like that. They weren't highly recruited. They were overlooked. They were scorned. They were benched at other schools, and now they're getting another chance. And they've got a hunger maybe that the Clemson guys don't. And the Clemson guys come in recruited, and they're living off the tradition of 5 years ago, and they get the mini golf course and the slide and all the things at their facility. And some of these guys are hitting them going, hey, we didn't have a mini golf course where I'm from, and I ain't going back. That's what I saw out of this game, Syracuse-Clemson, that shocked me. But it is on Dabo to get a better casserole recipe.
They've taken a handful of transfer guys. And I do want to preface this, and Pete, I'm not doing that thing where I say, you know, 2 nice things and 1 mean thing, because I want to preface this by saying I don't believe this is the case. I don't believe that there are the proverbial internal issues at Clemson. I'm not saying that. But how they play on the field is they play like a team that doesn't really like each other. Not like they dislike each other, but that they're sort of ambivalent about each other. There's not the stinger, the spirit, the hunger. That's what's missing. I mean, Brent Key from Georgia Tech had a quote that he said Saban used to use in their staff meetings all the time that applies to Clemson. A lot more guys have died trying to come back down Mount Everest than they did going up Mount Everest, because maybe you lose a little bit of that will once you hit the mountaintop, which Clemson has. I think Dabo can fix it. Maybe this is just a bad mix of ingredients or a not a championship mix. Now, the math, the realism in you compels you to say this. They have 2 ACC losses. It seems impossible that they would make the ACC championship game, and it for sure is highly unlikely. But they get Florida State at their place. They don't play Miami. If there is chaos below them, they could hold at least one tiebreaker. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think there are more losses in front of Clemson based on what I've seen. I don't think they are done losing, but you never know.
Can I posit a question here to you guys? Because I saw Andrea Adelson mention it on Saturday, and then I saw it pick up steam from there. Is this Florida State? Does it get Florida State bad? Like
no.
that? I think, okay. Yeah. Now, I think
I don't think so.
Last year at this time, I don't think we would have thought Florida State got Florida State bad, right? I would have told you how good their D-line was. Dan, do you think this gets Florida State bad this year?
2 wins? Well, they got 1.
Yeah, sure.
No, I don't think it gets that bad. First of all, they got
I guess that
Carolina
neighborhood,
coming.
right? That was an extreme. But like,
talk about a bake-off. We got a real cook-off on October 4th.
No.
Carolina, send your taster. Don't like those kings. You know how the king has the taster, right? You want to eat that casserole? Clemson at Carolina. That looked like a big game back before the season.
We thought we could be there for game day, right? That's not crazy. Right?
Yeah. It wasn't great. We're going to be at an ACC game, I think, but not that one.
Nope.
Yeah, I think that was probably penciled in as a possibility, right?
Sure.
No.
Yeah.
No. I don't think it gets that bad. I think there's still enough here for that. I'm really interested to see what happens. For the first time, Dabo was getting emotional after the game, and he talked about how much it hurt after. And I don't know that it's not the first time that he's actually going to address that there's a real problem. I think it was, look, we don't know what they're saying privately, but publicly it was always a defiance, right? Even last week, it was a defiance. 8 out of 10 championships. Is that good? Is that good? Right. And look, I mean, I'm not a marriage counselor, but when you start hearing like, couples talk about, well, I just go date somebody else that'll appreciate me better. That's not a good sign. That's generally not the kind of conversations you want inside a situation. So he was very defiant. He didn't sound defiant on Saturday, and maybe that's the first step. This is a great football coach, and this is a guy who makes people believe, and nobody ever thought that Clemson would get to what Clemson did, and he did it. But now it's imperative to him to figure out what's wrong and make bold changes to keep up. What worked in 2019, whether it's strategy, whether it's motivating players, whether it's how you build a roster, it's a totally different ball game now. It is a totally different sport. And a place like Syracuse can get good. And a place like Syracuse can get enough guys that can straight up physically compete with you, and let alone everybody else. It is a whole different sport. Dabo's from the last era. A lot of those guys are bailing out. Can he bridge it? As he said, he's only 55. It's too early for him to retire and to say, I'm done with this. But he's got to learn how to coach in this era.
And he has to do it within his own personality. Because if all of a sudden he decides I'm going to go out there and take 70 transfers, you know what? It will get bad, because that's not who he is. So he's got to find a way to balance that, improve it, whether that is staff changes, whether that's just for whatever reason, Cade Klubnik hasn't reached his potential as a quarterback there. Maybe it's the next quarterback. And I'm not trying to put it all on Cade, who had a great season last year and has had great moments. But for whatever reason, it hasn't elevated everybody. They have this is not the first year with Tom Allen, Wes Goodwin before him as the defensive coordinator. This is not the first year that the Clemson defense has underperformed relative to the talent. And Pete went down some of those. I would even argue, Pete, and I'm not trying to put it all on Peter Woods, he's been fine. I don't know that he's been a game wrecker, like that people expected on the guys up front. But I'll wrap this with Clemson on this with Fran Brown and Syracuse. You want to talk about a guy who's a rising star, a guy who lost a bunch of dudes, lost his best receiver from a high-flying passing offense last year, and is coming back and doing it again. And, maybe this makes Tennessee look a little bit better because Tennessee kind of took them apart early. I hate it for Steve Angeli. He's a guy who Marcus Freeman and all of the coaches at Notre Dame rave about the character and the belief, and they were excited for his opportunity there. And Fran had embraced him, and he was having a terrific start to his season. So hopefully he'll recover well. But, man, Fran Brown, rising star in coaching, which brings us to the next topic as we sort of fixate early on negative town. I promise you it's going to get a little more positive as we go along. About this time last year, we were saying, no way Billy Napier gets himself out of this. He's like one of those guys in the movies, and the hero's tied up and, the guillotine's coming closer and closer. There's no way he escapes this time. Oh, last minute, escapes the ropes. He's out, and here he goes to save the Gators. It appears that the Gators are cooked. I mean, Miami's a terrific team, but that was another abysmal performance by Florida. Defense played hard. Team played hard, just not well, particularly on offense. And after last year, I hesitate to say it, but it feels like that this time it's inevitable that Florida is going to have to go in a different direction. Or is there another great escape possibility, Pete? What are you hearing? What do we got?
Boy, that offense has been so listless, Rece. It's hard to imagine it, all of a sudden getting resuscitated. And DJ Lagway has been pedestrian. There's no other way to say it. 5 picks, and they didn't move the ball much against a very good Miami defense now, by the way. But they just
excellent,
yeah. They just couldn't get anything going. But if you have a quarterback of his caliber, you're expected to move the ball. And so I'm going to distill all the complexities of Billy Napier's tenure down to this. Last year, he was given a lifeline. Right? We thought he was a dead man walking this time of year. He was given a lifeline by administration, interim president, Scott Strickland. The buyout was $25+ million. It would have been the second biggest in college football history. And they said, hey, man, we're going to support you because you're doing everything right. Your players aren't getting arrested. Your program is being run well. We believe in what you're building, even though the results may not be there. And he was encouraged to bring in an offensive coordinator to take the load off of him in particular. And he got some leverage at the end of the year, and he didn't do it. And now he has left himself exposed, and that's Billy Napier's fault. Billy Napier's unflappable belief in him and his plan have left him alone on an island right now. So, and I'm not saying if he hired an offensive coordinator and they stunk this bad, he wouldn't be in the exact same spot, but I think he was given a lifeline and given some options to help protect himself, and he did not take them. And look, he'll get 20, I think it's 20.4 million, 10 million of which comes in 30 days. That'll buy you a nice dinner at the Swamp. And or at Spurrier Steakhouse where we went for basketball, Rece. That place is good. But yeah, it's so nobody's gonna cry for Billy Napier on the yacht there, but there was a path here, and he has now sort of hung himself.
I think it's just you're watching Napier. He has done a lot of really good things there, and they do have a pretty good roster, and he made sense as a hire. And there's so many things where you're like, when is this going to click? And it just isn't clicking. 62 yards passing by DJ Lagway. I mean, that can't happen. 0 for 13 on third down. Picked a couple up on fourth, but like that can't happen. Yeah, Miami's a great defensive line and might be the most physical team. But to compare these two, Mario Cristobal in Miami, and this is why I think they're national title contenders. He has an identity. They are building through the lines. That's Cristobal's thing. and they are rough and tough on both sides of the ball. And they have a ton of skill players. They're a really, really talented team. They've built it up. And what do you say, Cristobal? Well, maybe he's not the best in-game coach of this. Coached really well against Florida in some tight spots and against Notre Dame. You're not seeing the same complaints you would have had about Mario Cristobal 2 years ago. Billy Napier, you are. And I think you just sitting there saying, when is this going to – it's just – sometimes it just doesn't work. It's not that he hasn't done some pretty good things, but you got to see that growth. You're seeing it at Miami, and now Miami's a top 5 team. You're not seeing it at Florida. You see it with Mike Norvell. He flips the roster again. They're going pretty well. It's very rare that all – people remember when all 3 Florida schools were good, but it's very rare when they are. Yeah. Generally, it's like whack-a-mole. One pops up, one goes down, and they go back and forth. And then usually there's a massive scandal somewhere. We're not saying that this time because I don't know if there are any more rules. But
good point.
It's fantastic. They rise, and then they're making Netflix docs.
And then they're 30 for 30 when they fall.
Yeah,
so
30 for 30 docs. Yeah, whatever it is, it's usually something wild's happening. But that's okay. That's Florida man, right? It is Florida man. But right now, Florida's the one that's down. But they have players. It's just not working. And I think you see that growth in Miami. You don't see it in Florida. I don't know. Napier, here's the only thing he's got. He's got Texas and Texas A&M coming up. Speaking of like the Carolina Clemson bake-off, at one point this was the next 2 number 1 picks facing off, Arch Manning versus DJ Lagway.
Yeah, no, and
okay.
That does not appear to be the case. The thing about Texas that does not bode well for Napier is that I think they might have the best defense in the country. I don't know where they rank right now, but that defense is a mauling, suffocating, marauding unit. And
very Miami-like.
Yeah, every bit of
couldn't do anything against Miami.
Yeah. And there's one thing about Florida fans, Dan. They're kind of like pro fans. A lot of Northeast. They will hail that swamp with booze now. You know, if they're not moving the ball and Arch is spinning the pill around on them, that fan base turns nasty quick. On a rare positive note here, let's switch back to Carson Beck real quick, Dan. Do you know what his record is as a starting quarterback?
Really good.
28-3.
There you go.
28-3. So credit Mario Cristobal in the micro for his game coaching in 2 big spots so far this season. But credit from the macro. He said, hey, that guy went 24-3 at Georgia. He's probably better than Emory Williams, our backup. Let's bring him in. And let's cut through the Lamborghini and the noise, and let's cut through the BS. Acknowledge that at Georgia last season, they were flawed around him. You know, they didn't have Brock Bowers anymore. Georgia's receivers last year were dead average for the SEC, maybe below average. And let's say, hey, let's set this guy up to thrive again. And I think that was one of the 3 biggest decisions of the offseason that's going to define this college football season.
Well, the one thing I would say, and I don't think this is going to happen because of age at Florida, and Carson Beck has been sensational and right fit. You know what I would do if I were a powerhouse program and I needed to make sure that I was going to win? And, you know, I didn't care about 15 years down the road, care about 3 years down the road or next year and winning for 5 years. I'd go try to pry Curt Cignetti out of Bloomington, Indiana. I don't care how old he is. I would go and try to hire that guy and say, okay, let's get this fixed. And I'd get it. What's Curt, 64 years old, something, 64, 65, somewhere in there. If I get 10, great. But I'm going to take a great 5, and then we'll figure it out after the 5. That's what I do. Because I don't think the days of having a coach for 15 years, 20 years, that's going to be the aberration. That's not going to be the norm. Give me 5 good ones. And then if we get 10, that's a bonus. That's awesome. But if not, that's where I would start.
I Googled it, the buyout, and it's $10 million to hire Curt Cignetti, which considering the results he delivered, historically good results, generationally going against generations of bad football, you would think he'd transition easily to a powerhouse.
And let me say, he might not at this stage in his career, he might not want to do it, and that would be perfectly acceptable. And in this day and age of college football, he went to the playoff last year.
Yeah.
So he might not want to. That's where I would start, because not just Florida, anybody else that finds itself in that situation. I'd start there.
And credit Indiana, they paid him last year, Rece. I think he's at $9 million right now. It's like $72 million guaranteed. It was a big number. Probably get a little bigger if they do that again. But on Saturday.
Gotta be.
I hope he stays. I hope he stays because it's fun. It's fun to see that from Indiana, that atmosphere, we've had some great performances this year, and maybe Illinois had a bad night. Well, it did. Clearly, they had a bad night. I think they're probably better than they played. Maybe they're not as good as we thought. And they had massive injuries in the secondary, which were, really difficult to overcome. All of those caveats offered, just performance by a team, a singular team, and execution. That's the best performance I've seen this year. They were spectacular. They were absolutely spectacular in all facets, Dan. They were great.
They made them look like an FCS team.
Yeah.
They made Illinois. I think Illinois is an 8-win team, something like that. I think they're a good quality team. Maybe they should have been number 9. Illinois was the new Indiana. Indiana's this year's Indiana. They're Indiana. Kurt Cignetti. This guy is amazing. He's got no patience for how I'm supposed to take my time to win. The way he had no patience to say, I'm going to not say we're winning. I'm good. At halftime, they interviewed him right before half. They said, what are you looking for? They were up 35. I think they had 35 points. So what are you looking for in the second half, coach? And instead of mumbling out the usual things, score more points, right? Like this guy just talks like a t-shirt. He's just fantastic. I'm bringing in my guys. We're going to get better. We got better quarterback this year. We got better players. Oh, this guy leads that. This is one of the most astounding stories I've ever seen if this goes. Look, they got at Oregon. They got at Penn State. Those are the last hurdles. Can you beat the big dogs? But are you kidding me? We talk about what Dabo built at Clemson and had to do it the long way, slow, because that's how you do it. This is just straight up a drag race. He just comes right in. Boom. He hasn't lost to anybody. Like they lost to Notre Dame and Ohio State last year. They are beating everybody else. And what he did to Illinois, Brett Bielema has been around, okay? And he looked like he got run over by a train on Saturday night. He was like, I've never been a part of this. I've never, like, he's taken some beatings. He's dished out some beatings. He looked totally stunned that he got 63 hung on him. Indiana is really good football team. Now, can they win the national title in Kirk Cignetti's second season? No, probably not. But let's see. Let me tell you this. They think they can. And that means an awful lot. He is incredible at finding that guy with the chip on his shoulder in the portal. And that's what I was talking about with Dab. It's not just getting maybe the guy who's really talented. It's a guy who brings that chip on the shoulder, fits, toughness, all of that. You can't win with 70 new players every year. Probably not, but, well, maybe with 50 you can, because this is what he's doing.
Hey, Pete, you think somewhere Bo Pelini was watching that game and going, see, Brett, it's not much fun, is it? Remember, like Dan mentioned, 70. I think Brett dropped a 70 burger on Pelini in the Big Ten championship game one year, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, first of all, I need to say Rece's favorite line. Kurt Cignetti still has an unflappable belief in Kurt Cignetti. Like, it's just like Kurt Cignetti, and this is the highest compliment you can give him, thinks he is the best coach in college football. And
he might be right.
He might be. I mean, what he has done, I want to double down on Dan's point. What he has done is absolutely paradigm changing, remarkable. You can't say enough good things about how he revived that place. It is absolutely stunning to see Indiana in this position. But I do want to say this, the most impressive part about Saturday is, first of all, they did it to Illinois. This isn't some like goofy tempo offense outfit gone wrong. This is a program built for low scoring slug games. Like they did it against an entire operation that is built around this result not happening. Like if Indiana lost 20-17, you'd be like, okay, that was like if Illinois lost 20-17, you'd be like, okay, that's what Illinois does, right? They drag you in the mud, and Illinois just stayed in the mud, and Indiana just ran to land. And my last point here is that the most impressive part of this is There's not one transcendent star, although Fernando Mendoza is really, really good.
He's really good.
Yes, I had a couple scouts text me because the QB1 poll ran on Saturday with a little bit of regret that they didn't pick old Fernando come around midnight. There were some last call texts coming in saying like, we might be seeing Fernando in that QB1 conversation going. But, like think of like Baylor coming out of the dumps. RG3 led him there, for example. This is they're execution monsters. Like, it's not a scheme. It's not a singular player. They had the number 2 defense in the country last year. And when I picked them for the playoff, my case was this. They have maybe the best corner in the Big Ten in D'Angelo Pons. They have an all Big Ten middle linebacker at Aiden Fisher. And then Mikal Kamara was first team, second team, all Big Ten end. So they have like 3 first team, all Big Ten type players back on a defense that was number 2 in the country. So I had a lot of faith in Mendoza. We saw him at Cal last year. You called that game, Rece. I thought, his skill set was electric. And
it was fantastic. Yeah.
Yes. Every quarterback Cignetti and Mike Shanahan have touched has turned to gold. Everyone. From FCS to Sun Belt to the Big Ten, they have not flinched.
Be careful Saturday, though. Heaping the praise on, and they have to go to Iowa. They haven't been on the road yet. They had a terrible non-conference schedule, which, look, they've lost more games than anybody in the history of the sport. I'm not going to be one of these guys that, because they had a great year last year, that says all of a sudden they should start, playing, whoever, playing Notre Dame and Miami, non-conference. They're still Indiana. And even though he's done it quickly, they're still building. Better be careful Saturday, because it's really hard to go back-to-back with performances like that. And maybe you won't need a performance like that to beat Iowa, but go in there, going to be revved up. Iowa's still top 15 in total defense, though it didn't look that way early on against Rutgers. But I'd be careful. I'd be careful on Saturday when they go on the road.
Just real quick, he gets a lot of offense. It breaks down to get athletes in space, right? And see what they can do. I mean, I'm looking at this box score. Kobe Martin, 31-yard, his long rush, 31 yards. Kalen Black, 40. 3 other guys had at least a 10-yard rush as their longest rush. Receiving, Sarrett, 21-yard long. Cooper, 39. Nowakowski, 43. Hemby, 26. Like, that's a lot of different guys with big explosive plays. He's just got everybody out in the open, and he's letting his athletes beat you. That is some coaching. He finds the right players, but now can he do it at Iowa? Outlaw Kurt Ferentz getting it going on him against them. We'll see, but man, he finds a way to get players in space, and then they win. And I think these players are seeing it from all over the country saying, I'll go play for this guy.
The guy who's getting a lot of love for QB1, John Napier, led his team to a win against Auburn. Sooners have the week off. I want to talk about Auburn going to A&M coming up in just a minute, and I also want to have an airing of grievances over that particular game in Norman on Saturday, which was egregious, by the way. But Oklahoma still deserves a lot of credit. Their defensive front annihilated Auburn's offensive front. They got after Jackson Arnold, who didn't help his cause by holding the ball for a really long time and missing, wide stinking open receivers on a couple of opportunities for big plays. That said, you guys fully believing in Oklahoma right now and Napier as a championship contender, or just a really good team?
Dan, you can start.
I believe in Oklahoma. The only thing I don't like about Oklahoma is the schedule. They got a lot of tough games, but I think Auburn's really good. And that game was 2 high-level teams playing against each other. And it was, you could kind of tell pretty quickly, like, okay, this is going to be one of those swing games, ladder games in the middle of the SEC and where this is headed. Napier is tremendous. This is a great pickup. And watching Jackson Arnold miss some throws, holding the ball at the end was sort of just, pretty much everything that the Oklahoma fans kind of were frustrated at times with him last year. The defense is back. This is a Brent Venables defense that's playing. They're really good in the trenches. like to see a lot more rushing attack and things like that. But again, I thought that the Auburn defense is nasty, but they've now beaten Auburn, beaten Michigan, right? We'll see as this goes on, but why not Oklahoma? I like them very much. I think Red River is going to just be an absolute monster this year. I think this defense going against fired up to play Arch Manning as we get to that. We're a couple weeks away. It's going to be an incredible situation, but they could get through that. I'm a big believer in Oklahoma right now in what they're capable of doing. So I'm in.
Let's play a game. You are the odds maker, and you are setting the odds for Red River. Preseason, I'm just going to guess Texas would have been a 7.5-point favorite, right? Number one team in the country, Arch. Elite defense, which hasn't flinched. Today, what would you set the line at Red River for, Rece?
Okay, what I would set it for, or because I'm not in tune with what the odds makers kind of do. I probably have just enough knowledge of that to be dangerous and dangerously wrong. If I were picking who I thought would win the game and we're just sitting, I'd probably make Oklahoma a 3.5-point favorite. My sense is that the odds makers will say people like to bet on Texas, and that Texas will be a small favorite, 1.5, 2, 2.5, somewhere in that. That's my sense, and it will be solely because of their belief, if this is accurate, that people like to bet on Texas.
Yeah, so I
would probably favor Oklahoma by a field goal or something like that. Just if I'm picking a score, if we get to that week and we're picking the score, I'll probably pick Oklahoma to win by a field goal to a touchdown, absent things changing a lot.
Yeah. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, it would be closer, but I think Oklahoma, with what we've seen right now, Oklahoma's it would easy the favorite, but I would bet like 1.5 will open, something like that. We'll see. But I mean, look, Arch Manning looked good against Sam Houston finally, but that's it. Great defense at Texas. That game might be 9-6 too. That's why I wouldn't go more than a field goal or 7-6 or 10-6 or something like that. I mean, it's going to be a defensive battle, but and here's the other thing: like Michigan didn't look that bad against Nebraska. They actually looked pretty good. I mean, they handled that game. They had a coaching error at the end. Now 8-0 with interim coaches the last 3 years. Congrats, all-time record, we believe. Most interim coaching victories for the winnings program. No, but yeah, they really were the better team than Nebraska. I don't think Michigan's particularly great at this moment, but that beating Michigan the way Oklahoma did should carry a little bit more weight after Michigan goes in and really handles themselves pretty well, accounts for themselves pretty well at Nebraska. So you got the better quarterback. You probably got even defenses. I would take Oklahoma in that game right now.
Yeah. How about R. Mason Thomas this weekend? Comes in the first half. Did you see his first sack?
Yeah, it is like Superman and pummeled poor Jackson Arnold.
In my mind, I was like, back in the 2000s, that would have been the cover of Sports Illustrated. Him just like flying in, and then he has the made Brent Venables' soul warm up. I would think he has the walk-off safety, right? Like, did anything make BV more happy than
very important to some, Pete?
Oh, well,
very
I didn't
important.
That.
Very important safety to some, depending on where you landed.
Yeah, arid regions. Is that where it was?
Yeah, comrades. I want to say one thing about this game, and we've been doing this podcast for a while, and I've been on TV for years and years, and I really try to avoid getting on and whining about officials. Now, there is something that I hate about that I hear people say, and I've probably been guilty of saying it too about officials. Say, well, officiating's a hard job. You know what? Everybody's got a hard job. Coaches have a hard job. Players have a hard job. Broadcasters have a hard job. If you choose to be an official, and to quote Bill Belichick, do your job. And that has happened with some alarming infrequency, in my judgment. Most notably, it happened on several occasions in this game. The missed hideout play, that's one of those things that I think that sort of should be on the defense and probably shouldn't be against the rules, but it is. And if it's against the rules, call it, because clearly that's what they did. They feigned a substitution. I know he didn't leave the field. Everybody, including the SEC, said that's a penalty. Don't miss that. Don't miss that. And the other thing, the Auburn scoop and score that would have put them up 7-0, if that's not a catch and a fumble, And if that is the correct call by the book, change the book, because that's a stupid rule. Because he caught it. He had it in his hands. He took steps. He was going to move it from his hands up, not controlling it, already had the control. Tackled, fumble, scoop, score, touchdown. Now, if the officials had reviewed that and said, after further review, there's no fumble, down by contact, I probably would not have agreed with that judgment, but I would have said, okay, it was close, maybe. To me, they went off the board and said incomplete. Can't have it. Egregious misses on pass interference. On one of them, Auburn scored anyway. I mean, you're not going to get them all right. I get that. I'm not going to bat 1,000 in broadcasting. I get it. The egregious ones have to go. Missing the type of free kick you get in the Missouri-Kansas game, that's got to go. Got to go. And I don't know if it's replay making them hesitant, if they are losing guys to the NFL and guys are progressing earlier. But I mean, we're starting to get acknowledgments regularly from various places of, okay, well, we screwed up this rule by the book. Judgment calls, like I brought up the pass interference, I shouldn't have. I apologize for that. That's a judgment call. You're going to miss those. That's a bad one. The other ones, no. And I've got one more. I haven't had an argument at the highest level of officiating with this in the Indiana-Illinois game Saturday night. That was not targeting on Miles Scott. I mean, they told me, I think it was. He hit him with his shoulder and his shoulder. It was a violent hit. It was a hard-nosed hit. He didn't do the launch indicator, I didn't think. He didn't make contact with the crown. It was clearly a defenseless player. No doubt about that. That can't be targeting. Not when you purposely get him and you get him in the shoulder, and if you rattled his head a little bit, well, that's part and parcel of playing football. But he didn't take violent contact to the head and neck area. That looked like a shoulder hit to me. And, you know, everybody complains about targeting and stuff. But some of these rules, if they are being called correctly by the book, most notably catches and targeting, let's have a good look at what that book says and make sure that that book gets fixed. The hideout play, the free kick in the Missouri-Kansas game, that can't happen. That's like I used to tell my kids when they were little, like if Christopher was swinging a bat and Elizabeth was, like 2 and he was 5. I was like, I know you wouldn't hit her on purpose. That's an accident that can't happen. You swing the bat, you got to know who all's around you. The officiating errors, the free kicks, the hideout plays, sorry, man, can't happen. And it's no excuse to say it's a hard job. Everybody's got a hard job.
Dan, you want to know why this is an appropriate rant for Rece Davis to execute this very week?
What?
Rece's wife, Lee, went to Auburn. And if there's a week that Rece Davis needs a little bit of warmth at home, it is the week of his daughter Elizabeth's wedding. Now, she is an Alabama fan, as we've come to learn in the Game Day crew. She has popped her head into a few times when we've been at Alabama games. But I think, Dan, we're going to hijack the pod for a minute here, and we're going to ask Rece Davis, host of College Game Day for a decade plus, one of the faces of college football, how he ended up with a daughter with a fall wedding.
Yeah, I was number one question. What in the world? What happened?
See why he wants to curry favor with his family.
Yeah. Auburn got screwed, Rece. I'm with you. Okay, I'm gonna help you out too. Right? I want to burn the casserole or something. Okay, that whole casserole story was a tell. We know that. Okay, but that's all right. We'll pretend it was the farmer's market. What fall wedding, Rece?
Okay, I'm going to answer that because I do want to say one thing. I think about the Auburn calls, because I don't want this to be misconstrued. I'm going to come back to it. I don't want this misconstrued. It didn't cost him the game. You give up 9 sacks. I think they adjusted.
Rece, not this week.
Yeah, they adjusted it to 9 sacks because of a penalty. Dan, I'll get back to you, I promise. Okay. But that's not why they lost the game. If you can't protect the quarterback, you're going to lose the game. Auburn did a lot of dumb things, a lot of penalties. That's not why. I'm just saying you got to clean this stuff up in these high-level games. Now, back to the fall wedding. I might have told Pete this story before. My daughter, fan of Stars Hollow, Dan, Gilmore Girls, think she's always dreamt, having grown up in New England, dreamt of having a fall wedding, leaves, beautiful, all of that kind of thing. Yeah. Also knew the conflict being a college football fan and the conflict with my job. Last year, I think we were at Texas, and Ryan McGee and Marty Smith did that piece on how awful it was for fall weddings. And of course, predictably, everyone on the set fell into character. And, this is a terrible thing, all of this stuff. And me, knowing that it was probably coming, but it hadn't been set yet, I don't know, weddings once in a lifetime thing, whole thing. But I will tell you the awareness, because her fiance is also a massive college football fan, Colorado Buffalo. She called me after, he had his name is Nate Poulter. Nate had proposed to Elizabeth. She had accepted. They were going to get married. And she called me one night and she said, do you know where you will be on September 27th, which is Saturday? Wedding's not Saturday, it's Sunday. And I said, yes. Turns out I was wrong because, you sort of thought it would be Athens. But I said, yes, but I'm not telling you. She said, why not? I said, just because. One thing, because she went with me to the Georgia-Alabama game last year. They both did, and described it, the aftermath of the Ryan Williams play, as perhaps the greatest night of her life after seeing that. So I was not going to tell her that's Alabama-Georgia weekend. And she said, why won't you tell me? I said, because there will be other games. There will be other shows. I said, you guys do what's best for you and the wedding. I said, I will adjust. So for the whole thing, even when I was going through, and boy, I'm really giving too much behind inside baseball. When I was going through contract negotiations, this came up. And I said, I probably won't be there. The weekend of September 27th, my daughter's getting married on 28th.
Probably.
And and everybody was cool with that. ESPN was awesome. Everything's fine in that regard. So then Elizabeth started saying, well, I feel guilty. I don't want you to miss the show. So as it turns out, I'm going to do the show. But they opted for Sunday, and because they decided to have a relatively short engagement, finding a venue and vendors is extraordinarily difficult. And, that doesn't seem like short notice, but apparently in the wedding world it is. So they had a much wider variety of venues and vendors for a Sunday afternoon wedding than they would have for a Saturday evening wedding. So they chose. And her stock response has been this. It has been, well, the wedding is not on a college football Saturday, and NFL Sundays are not nearly as important as college football Saturdays. That's been her stock response.
I thought we were going Saturday night during the dang Alabama-Georgia game. I was like, what did we teach this child?
Rehearsal dinner, I think there will be people, or actually that will be the rehearsal dinner will be over. Welcome party. Then I imagine there will be some people gathered around sets. Huh?
You'll get back from that, right? You're in State College, right? Can you get out?
Oh, yeah, that'll be, yeah.
Rece Davis, Father of the Year. That was a really heartfelt, that was a really good speech. That was really
Thank
good.
Your contract negotiations are definitely going to get aggregated, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, is that right?
I don't know.
We'll probably have to take that out. The aggregators. Oh, Rece Davis negotiated a weekend off. Yeah, except I'm not taking the weekend off.
Correct. Yes.
So, anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm even trying to get there. I'm trying to get there in time because I'm going to arrive a little bit later because of some other stuff. But Pete and I have I don't know if you call it a tradition, but it's we've done it once and we're going to try to do it again. Friday morning coffee. So depending on what time that is, Pete, I'm going to try to actually get there in time for that, for our Friday morning coffee meeting.
Oh, so you're coming in Friday morning?
Coming in Friday morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that'll be good. Get some cold brew. Get you going. It's big.
Yeah. Got to get going.
Big weekend. So
I don't know the cold brew versus the
spot.
cafecito time. Which
there we go. Yeah.
I went
that
like
was elite.
I went like 3 deep immediately. I mean that officer in Miami. I was walking up and I just sort of said in passing. I wasn't asking him, and he was very kind. Tony Alamont. And I was riding up the elevator to our office space on Friday. And I said, this is a great hotel where I just left in Coral Gables and went down to the coffee shop. I was a little disappointed. No Cuban coffee. And Officer Alamon said, you want Cuban coffee? I said, that'd be great. He goes, I'll get it for you. I was, no, I don't want you to run it there. He goes, no, it's easy. I'll do it. I said, well, let me give you some money. He said, no. He comes back, 2 sizable cups and little shot cups of containers and some Cuban delicacies. I mean, I'm going to tell you, Miami.
Community policing.
Miami rolled out the hospitality carpet. It was great.
That gives you a little pep. I'd never had that Cuban coffee. Woo-hoo.
First time I ever had it, Mike Leach. Mike Leach had some that I guess he had brought from Key West when he was in Pullman. I was doing a Thursday night game in Pullman, and I know you guys might be familiar with this concept. Occasionally, Mike would go on a tangent. Imagine that. And he did during our production meeting, and he said, "Oh, go up to my office and bring him down some of that Cuban coffee," and it was fantastic. So,
yeah, God rest his soul. Well, we've covered some ground from wedding venues to the Palouse. Mike actually would be proud of the
this one all over the place. I have a crazy idea for that Mike would like. Okay, just briefly, the targeting we got to either higher the standard for the suspension or the boot getting kicked out and missing, or can we go soccer style with the yellow card, and then if you're like miscreant it again?
I'd like that. I would like levels of it. I'm all for guys getting run.
Bring the yellow card to it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's just such a hard thing. Like I have not been an elite athlete. I know that may surprise you guys, but like, how do you control your body and your decision making? And a lot of times, a couple of times this weekend, like the offensive player went low.
Yeah,
and it's just like, how do you predict that when you're about to do that, going full speed in with 100,000 people watching you? Like I just have a lot of empathy for those guys trying to do that. Now, you can teach it, coach it, and do all that, and they do. But boy, that is tough in that moment, especially the way football is played right now. Just it's a pass game.
While certainly the highlight of this upcoming weekend will be the wedding for me, I want you guys to think just a minute about what we have coming up this weekend. We have the best atmosphere in college football, a whiteout at Penn State for a top six matchup between Penn State and Oregon. According to the AI machine, the loudest stadium noise ever recorded in college football came at Husky Stadium. 133 decibels, according to that. That seems like a lot, but whatever it was, we've all been there. When they're good, it's loud. Yep. They're undefeated. They've got offensive weapons, and Julian Sayin is making his first start on the road, and we've seen that be tricky for even the most talented quarterback. So number one, going into as loud an environment as there is in college football. We have the highest stakes rivalry in the recent history of the sport in Alabama and Georgia. Georgia trying to slay this dragon. The Spike Squad, the guys up front with the spike shoulder pads, have called for a blackout, which is how this whole thing got started with Alabama's mastery over Georgia to begin with. It's as if they're trying to close the loop and usher in the dawn of a new day in the Alabama-Georgia matchup. We have one of the most underrated, bitter rivalries in LSU and Ole Miss. LSU has two great wins, or so we thought, one of them on the road, but now Clemson and Florida have face planted. We're going to find out. I think we all know LSU's defense is good. Nussmeier's healthy. They go in against Ole Miss. How good is Ole Miss? How good is LSU? I think very good. We'll find out on Saturday. And then you've got all of these sneaky snake pits. Illinois off the embarrassment. Here comes USC. USC getting challenged away from home. Tennessee going to Mississippi State, where Arizona State has already got a little too much cowbell. And then the two unluckiest teams in college football play against each other. And how crazy is it to say that Notre Dame is one of the unluckiest teams in college football? They've lost two games basically on the last play. One on the literal last play and the other with like 13 seconds on a fourth down play. And then Arkansas, in its two losses, has been driving for what appeared to be an inevitable win and an egregious, unbelievable, catastrophic fumble in both of the games against Ole Miss and Memphis on what should have been the game-winning drives. Bringing them to an end. And so you've got that. And I've left out other things too. This weekend, electric. And we're going to be back on Old Main for Penn State, which is a great setting for college game day. So it's a great place to be in a great weekend.
Let me give you a couple of the depth games that I think it's because you're right. It's not just, I mean, look, Saturday night, okay, clear the deck. Like it is, you got Georgia, Alabama, and you got Oregon, Penn State, like trying to watch them both at the same time and all that. Obviously, we'd watch the ESPN family networks, but you have all that. But like some of these other TCU at Arizona State on Friday night, right?
That's a great one. Yeah.
BYU at Colorado late on Saturday night. Auburn at Texas A&M. Tennessee at Mississippi State. Hear me out. Okay. Mississippi State's feeling themselves a little bit. That's going to be a wild thing. Like some of these games that are going to be like your third or fourth option to watch are really strong. And they're all over this day. It is going to be an epic day of college football.
Will the rehearsal, dinner, and welcome party have 4 boxes, Rece? That's really the question.
I don't know. That is not our, we're in charge of Sunday basically, but I think given the allegiances of the groom's family, I think that there will be access to these things. And also,
the Buffs are on, right?
Yeah, right. Well, it'll certainly be over by the time the Buffs play.
Okay.
But I think that we'll put a wrap on it prior to the conclusion of the Penn State game and the Georgia game. So I think we'll be able to keep up. Although I'm not going to promise the usual level of concentration. That might be one of those days where, and by the way, I'm telling Adrian, our producer, now I'm not going to be on the podcast next Monday. I'll need emotional recovery time because even in the best of circumstances, man, when you're giving away your daughter, and this is, by the way, the best of circumstances, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. So I'm going to need some recovery time. So maybe part of the recovery will be to watch those games with a little more intent and focus on Monday.
Well, good
Amen.
luck.
We'll be back.
Good luck. Congratulations to you and your whole family.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Have an extra glass of wine too. Yeah. You don't want to sit there on at your daughter's wedding going, I got that big, 8:15 pie tap. I got to turn in. Sorry. Gotta go. Dad, will you have a final glass of wine with me? No, I got to talk.
Wetzel's going to be really mad if I'm late. Wetzel's going to be mad if I'm late.
Please.
He's going to. Can you imagine what Thamel's going to say if I don't know the definition of his 7-syllable word, or what Wetzel's going to say if I miss a pop culture reference? What's going to happen here?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Priorities.
Well earned. So, this is your contract negotiations, America.
Oh, is this?
Right now.
Yeah.
They
were great. They were great about that. That's the one thing for the mega businesses, and I'm not just trying to brag on the employer, but a lot of people like to take shots at them. Every big business is going to have people that criticize them. Sometimes the criticism is justified. But I've been there 30 years, and for every big life moment, whether it's losing a parent or a wedding or the birth of a child, whatever it is, phenomenal, just phenomenal. And I'm very much appreciative for that. And I appreciate you guys bringing it up. It'll be fun. And certainly this weekend of college football will be fun too. I think we got this officiating straightened out. We've got coaching searches straightened out. So that's what you get when you subscribe to this podcast, or you can download wherever you prefer to get your podcast.